welcome to episode 340 of the Defensive Security Podcast. My name is Jerry Bell, and joining me today, as always, is Mr. Andrew Callett.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I am so good. I was going to say it hurts, but it really doesn't.
I mean, that could just be being old.
You don't say. Yeah, it's probably that.
I mean,
how are you?
We're at an age now where you just sleep wrong and you wake up with a aching back and a sore neck.
That's right.
I'm good. Thanks for asking. Getting through the week, as they say, and trying to keep my head up. It's a crazy time. That's all I can say.
That it is. So I do want to start out the show by thanking our Patreon sponsors. Thank you very, very much. And I will also remind everybody, if you do want to become a Patreon sponsor, you can do that on our Patreon site. It's patreon.com/defensivesec. We have, I think, close to 90 donors. It's a good crowd. You do get the high honor of having our episodes a week before everybody else, which is pretty amazing.
Assuming that we record every week, which sometimes we don't, but we try.
We try. We are trying. Last week was not great for me. So I've had some stuff going on.
Yeah. Real life sometimes gets in the way.
Yeah. It's I'll just say it is challenging when your parents get old. I'll leave it there. Okay. Also a quick reminder that the thoughts and opinions we express on this show are ours and not those of our employers, either past, present, or future. And that goes for, all of our hot takes, all of our your mom jokes, and anything else in between. So there you go.
Tis true.
All right, jumping into some stories. The first one comes from the Register, and the title here is Notepad++ hijacking, blamed on Chinese Lotus Blossom crew behind Chrysalis backdoor. Holy cow, that's quite a sentence. So there was a big bunch of news around this. I guess it was about a week ago or so. Notepad++ is, I think, very, very popular amongst the IT crowd. It's quite flexible. It will, it serves as not only a basic notepad, but it also does, auto formatting for a whole bunch of different programming languages. It has some really novel, abilities to select text in columns. And anyway, it's very useful. But what happened here is that sometime towards the beginning of 2025, a threat actor who I'm not going to dwell on, the particular threat actor. I think the attack itself is what's really novel here. The threat actor compromised the hosting service that Notepad++ used for their website, basically to distribute their software. And unfortunately, Notepad++ doesn't rely on signed updates, or at least it didn't at the time. And so what happened in this instance was the threat actor, once they had compromised the hosting infrastructure, they were diverting some percentage. It's a little unclear who, how many, why, what the objective was, but they were rerouting some percentage or some specific targets who Notepad++ installs who were trying to download updates to something that the attacker controlled, which was then basically feeding that victim a tainted update package that included a remote access Trojan. And so obviously that's not an awesome thing because, again, Notepad++ is pervasively used. And it's been a very interesting thing because since Notepad++ made this announcement, and again, it's kind of old. The attack itself was kind of old news at this point. Like it's if you haven't taken action already and you were affected, like you're probably in trouble. But what's interesting to me is that there's a lot of companies that I'm observing kind of going in panic mode, trying to chase out and ban Notepad++ from their environments after Notepad++ has taken a bunch of steps to ensure
Right.
that this can't happen again. And so now they're going to cause all their employees to go find some other, perhaps even crappier security solution. So I've always been a little concerned. I will say, like, there are differences. There are shades of gray here. Like, while I will criticize companies that will make a knee-jerk reaction against something like Notepad++, there are others where, like, let's say Ivanti is an example, where perhaps you would want to make a change, because that one, I think you're asking for trouble, and again, like, there's new news about that happening over the course of the past week. More enterprises. I think it was the European government actually getting hacked through Avanti. So that, anyway, that's my take on this. Like, I almost always a little bit frustrated that we're quick to react, closing the barn door after the horses have left, as the saying goes.
Indeed. Yeah, I was actually digging in this one a little bit too, and I was trying to see if there was something applicable that we could take away from this. And I do think this is in part a third-party risk management problem. Mm-hmm. So, some of the things that the Notepad++ crew have done is changed how they do. Like, one of the things they've done is they were doing self-signed certs on the executable for a while. And, to their point, hey, if you wanted a third-party cert that your operating systems could check against, that's expensive. It costs money. And when you're a hobbyist organization and you're doing open source kind of development and such, that's non-trivial expense. So, who bears that cost? Well, one of the things in this particular article linked to a previous article that talks about this, where they say, quoting from the previous article that's also in the Register about the initial hack, that some folks were saying Notepad++ dev did a great job treating the issue seriously. As for Notepad++, the apologies were profuse. The project's website has since moved to a new hosting provider with significantly strong practices, and the update process has been hardened. Certificates and signature verification will be enforced starting with the upcoming version 8.9.2, expected about a month. And they're moving to a new third-party signature verification process. So to me, it's more, okay, if the gap is self-signed signatures, maybe the takeaway here is not to ban something like Notepad++ after this has happened, but to look for other open source environments that don't have a robust signature verification process you can trust for this particular attack type, right? And it's also interesting in that some of the redirects to the malicious download apparently were selective. It was not universal, which is kind of interesting too. So I think it's more, hey, if you want to allow your organization, enterprise, to use open source tools like this, maybe you check that this sort of thing is not possible, and this sort of redirect is something you detect either with strong signature verification process, strong centralized IT control of updates and installation processes, not allowing your users to install anything they want, all that kind of control over it, so that at least, not that IT folks can't be subjected to these same sorts of potential supply chain attacks, but at least in this case, if your third-party risk management around open source was, hey, it needs to have a third-party cert that we can verify, we need to be able to verify where it's coming from, we pick the source of it, and we verify it, and we push it out to our enterprise, I think that sort of stuff can, at least for this particular attack, be more useful than just banning Notepad++.
Yeah, agreed. I by the way, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't say that I think the Notepad++ team did a way better job of responding to and communicating about this incident than most commercial software companies have. So like it's unfortunate that it happened, but I do think they deserve a little bit of kudos for, their response. Like they did a very good job. So completely agree with what you said. I will say that based on the way this particular attack progressed, once a computer downloaded one of those infected updates or affected updates, uh, it seems highly likely if you were using more sophisticated EDR or XDR type software, you probably would have gotten caught, because it's using things like DLL sideloading, and it's the description of what that code was doing looks like things that your typical Sentinel-1, CrowdStrike, whatever, would, even Microsoft Defender would likely detect. But I don't know. I mean, that's back to your point. Like, it would be really cool if we actually understood, like if we had some kind of tally on that sort of that sort of thing.
Yeah, and of course, it's such a moving target. Like one day, some EDR platform choice doesn't detect this, and the next day they do. Right? It's always tough to know.
Yeah, I mean, you can't like to bet your company on it. It's a layer. It's a layer of protection for sure. So anyway, moving on to our next story. This one comes from Bleeping Computer, and the title here is "Fake Job Recruiters Hide Malware and Developer Coding Challenges." Now, we've talked about this sort of thing in the past, but I thought it was worth bringing up again in particular because of what's happening in the IT job market right now. Like, there are a lot of people who are very, I don't want to say desperate, but very motivated to jump through hoops to try to find some sort of job. And I think that what's happening here is you've got criminals who are taking advantage of that fact. And there's this article is talking about a specific threat actor who is specifically targeting developers who are in kind of the blockchain crypto space. And what they're doing is, again, it's not like super novel in the scheme of things, but they're assigning coding challenges as part of a fake interview for a job that requires the candidate to basically download code from a repository. Of course, they're using like legitimate repositories like npm and PyPy to host these malware laced repos that the candidate then has to run as part of their quote assignment for their job interview. And of course that then has a remote access Trojan / infostealer, which is, again, because this candidate is quite likely in the crypto ecosystem, they probably have crypto wallets and whatnot on their computer with the intention of stealing information and money from these candidates who probably can't really afford to lose that money in the first place.
Yeah, it's, once again, we see these big centralized code hosting platforms being abused for their perceived invulnerability or layer of protection through this malware that gets delivered. And I'm not dogging them, but I still keep coming back to, are they some point going to somehow have such a reputational hit that they're going to have to start doing something to minimize this pain point? Now, in this case, right, it was GitHub hosted, pulling a malicious package out of a third-party package repository like PyPy or npm. So it's multiple things that make it look very legitimate. That's going to be tough, I think, for these, especially for custom code, and very selective code for these centralized repositories to somehow combat that. I don't know how they will, but it does feel to me like eventually they're going to have to do something because they're just being used so often as an avenue for this attack. Not their fault, by the way. I'm not blaming them, but their reputation is being utilized, and eventually it's going to start to hurt the reputation. The other thing I thought about is boy, if I'm a dev doing an interview project with code I don't know, I'm definitely going to do it in an isolated VM. Would be my strong recommendation.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the big takeaway here is that again the IT job market is challenging to say the least for many people right now, especially those who are coders or programmers. And so, I think the opportunity to apply for a job, I think is pretty appealing, but it's important to take, good precautions, again, like running things in a virtual machine. So I think that is the big takeaway. And it's interesting because like the scammers here, I guess I'll call them scammers, criminals here, are inventing companies. Like they're creating these fake companies, and then they're creating, job postings associated with those fake companies that have pretty elaborate job descriptions and pay ranges and whatnot. So like they've put in a fair amount of work to make this seem legitimate to an unwitting candidate. So I would just say, be a little bit skeptical. I mean, obviously we all have to, we all have to eat and pay to support our families, but there are some fairly basic precautions you can take.
Yeah. I also wonder if I haven't tried this. It's purely speculative, but this may be one where you grab the project and throw out an AI and say, "Hey, AI, is this malicious?" I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible.
Could be. I mean, the other thing I think about is the way that these guys establish credibility of these fake companies. What would be worse, or what make a lot of sense, is like, so a couple of guys start a podcast for 15 years and then launch a malicious company with that kind of background.
Playing the long game.
Hey, look, we got to eat.
That's right.
No, I'm kidding. FBI, that's a joke.
Mostly a joke. Yep. All right. So anyway, it's also interesting how in the article they point out how the criminals here have naming trends on how they're how they're evolving the packages, and they don't attribute that to anything particular, but they point out that, for example, in 2025, most of the repositories that they were having people download as part of their fake coding assignment, had the word graph in it, and now it has the word big in it as of like 2026. And so my guess is there's something going on in that ecosystem that I'm betting people who are deeply familiar, with blockchain development, just as an example, would recognize and that might resonate with. The other thing that struck me, and I don't know exactly how this necessarily manifests itself, right? But this is pretty focused on developers, and it's even more focused on the subset of developers who are looking for jobs in blockchain companies. And the reason they're doing that is because it's easy to steal cryptocurrency if they can get a foothold on your computer. But in concept, this kind of attack can be perpetrated against others. And I, one of the things I worry about is, when employees or become disgruntled or learn that they're probably going to get let go, and they start looking for other jobs, and maybe they're sysadmins or DevOps people or security analysts, whatever, and they fall victim to some sort of scam. Obviously, they're probably not going to be taking coding exams, but it's not hard to imagine that there's some other permutation of this that that people who are super eager to find another job might fall victim to. So
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Be on guard.
Scammers will go to where the desperate people are.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the motivation. If I can, not I, but if the bad guys can trigger one of your motivations, they're much more likely to get you to do something that is not in your best interests. So
absolutely. All right. So moving on, the next story we have is from Bleeping Computer, and the title is Amos InfoStealer targets macOS through popular AI app. And just to cut to the chase, that popular AI app is ClaudeBot / Moltbot / OpenClaw. In case you're,
is such an amazing juxtaposition topic. Like amongst AI folks, it's the best thing ever. Amongst security folks, it's the worst thing ever. And there's not much middle ground.
A lot of the security press makes reference to it as like the disaster app or some permutation of of a catastrophe packaged in an application. But look, it's phenomenally popular, and I think that we're going to see more things like this. That it was, I don't know that you would say it's necessarily like revolutionary. I think the way it was packaged up and made accessible is what was perhaps revolutionary and has caused it to really take the industry by storm. Like, this is wildly popular. And the story here is about how there's a whole bunch of criminals. And I don't think it's just like one or even a few threat actors. Like, I think there are lots of different threat actors who are basically poisoning this OpenClaw uses the concept of skills. Like, and skills are basically templates that you can download into your installation of OpenClaw that will teach it to be able to do something like, interact with iMessage or, work with Outlook or Excel or whatever. Right. And so you've got these threat actors who are creating what look like legitimate, useful things. And maybe they actually have some legitimate, useful functionality, but they are also stealing you blind. They're robbing you blind. They're taking, credentials and whatever else they can find. And it's interesting that this is very focused on Mac. And you might say, well, why is that, Jerry? And the reason is
Jerry?
A lot of people, especially home users, have been buying used Mac Minis to run this on. And so like the Mac Mini market is crazy right now because you got so many people buying them to run this. And I think the reason is that everybody wants their OpenClaw install to be accessible through iMessage.
Which, I mean, sure, perfect. I think part of what I'm seeing here too is it's such a new revolutionary space. There's very little reputational trust built up around any of these things yet. So if I'm going to the skills marketplace, which is brand new, to teach my Claude bot to do something new, I don't know who to trust. I just pick something that looks cool and I run with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, so maybe that'll shake out in time, but maybe not. But it's, the other thing that I think, and this is a little side tangent to this topic, is the reason these are popular and powerful is you give them so much capability, and it has a bunch of functional capability to do things for you. But to do things for you, it has to have extensive access to your information, your computer, your systems, your accounts. So it becomes super powerful, and within moments, people figure out how to abuse that and steal information from you. But I think this is going to be the way AI is going to go, by the way. I don't think this genie's not going back in the bottle. More and more of these local AI and whatever, cloud AI, hybrid AI tools are going to want this kind of access to be useful to you. And we're just going to click yes. And it's going to get ugly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can just think about a use case like where you want to use you're somebody who's interested in day trading, and I don't think this is an unreasonable use case, right? And so you are going to set up an OpenClaw install to execute on some trading scheme that you have developed, and so you've found a skill that you can use to interact with your Schwab account. Well, like if somebody's been able to compromise your OpenClaw install, they conceivably have access to your Schwab account, and it's not hard to see why that might be bad. Now, I mean, that's bad from a personal position, but I think it's equally bad in a business setting, right? Like, because we're seeing being adopted inside corporate America at an alarming pace. It's probably like I'm of two minds on this, right? Because on the one hand, the reason it's being adopted so fast is because people are finding useful things for it to do, or at least they have the expectation it's going to be useful. But on the other hand, like it's months old. Like as you pointed out, like the skills marketplace is is even newer. Like there's like there's no governance. Like we all make fun of like SOC 2 and how ineffective that is. Like there's none of that. There isn't even that. This is the wild freaking West.
But we've talked about this too. We in security are in a tough spot around this, I think.
Yeah.
Because the zeitgeist is, if you want to be a performer at work, if you want to succeed, if you want to survive the bloodbath that is coming, you have to embrace AI. You need to figure out how to be not a 10x employee, not a 100x employee, but a 1000x employee with the use of AI. And you hear about stuff like this, and your buddy down at the racquetball court, which we never hear about racquetball anymore, but you know what I mean, tells you how he's doing all this amazing stuff.
Pickleball now. It's pickleball
now. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Trying to sound old. It's telling you about this amazing new thing, and you want to try it. And man, just like, I don't think the average corporate white collar worker understands or cares yet. They might care, but they don't understand the true risks these things bring. And I think until we have some very, very serious incidents, we are going to be absolutely running full throttle towards this and just throw caution to the wind. There's too much compelling pressure to go down this path. And the problem we run into from security is if we try to say, whoa, hold on now, we sound like the Luddite fuddy-duddies who are going to get pushed out of the conversation. Now, it may still be valuable for us to go, hold on now, hold up. There's a bunch of concerns here, and here's a better way to do it. If we can get ahead of it enough to give them a better way to do it, which is difficult for us because we got a lot of other things to do, or be able to say later, hey, we kind of warned you. We informed you thusly. That's a very careful, difficult conversation to have. But I honestly feel like we are just going to have to touch the hot stove about 17 times before this gets better.
It's not fundamentally going to change until there's some externality that causes it to change. Like it's going to end up being regulators or your insurance company or like something external is going to have to drive a change because it is such an attractive thing. And by the way, I will take what you were saying about security people and go further and say, I think we're approaching the point where companies will be looking at their security teams saying, why are you not also doing this?
Yes, you're 100% correct. 100% correct.
Like, forget about those people. Like, how are you embracing and adopting this to make your operation more efficient?
I'm absolutely seeing executives standing up KPIs or OKRs or whatever you want to call them around AI adoption for all parts of their staff. Again, I think those of us in security are in a tough spot. We can dig our heels in and we will be run over, I believe. But it is what it is. It's not our companies.
Either you or your replacement is going to figure out how to make this work.
That is true. That is exactly true. And it sounds dire. It sounds defeatist. I think the best thing the best advice I can give is try to understand it enough to maybe nudge it in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful about all the startups who are selling shiny blinky boxes that will protect you from all of this, because this is like OAuth token access permissions on steroids, and people don't even understand that.
It's, it is going to open up huge avenues to be robbed blind, and that's the unfortunate thing. But at the same time, I think companies, it's one of those, again, it's one of those things where companies are not going to be, generally, broadly speaking, there's always exceptions, right, willing to slow down because they feel like they're going to be at a strategic disadvantage if they do. And so it's going to be kind of the luck of the draw on whether you're one of the companies that steps on the landmine that ends up with your payroll cleared out, or your Salesforce database dumped online, or whatever bad thing, that it's, but obviously management won't be happy if that happens to them. But I think they will be, it's like you're trading a chance for that bad thing versus an almost guaranteed, at least perception from leadership, that you're missing out on something big by not embracing it.
The corporate FOMO right now is insane. And they might be right, by the way. They might be right.
Yeah.
It is a massive lemming situation. The question is, are we heading towards a cliff or not?
Well, I think we're, we are in the transition from horses to cars right now. Like this is what this feels like. And so we're all here saying, oh my God, like the cars that go so fast, they're like, people are going to get run over. They're going to get killed. The cars are going to catch on fire. They're like, it's going to be a catastrophe. And like, well, objectively, yes, it is. Like, there's a lot of people that die on the roads every year, but like, we still, at least here in the US, drive cars. And I think it's going to end up being a situation like that. So
we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah. But
I'll be honest, man, I have a lot of trouble predicting where this is going. So I'm just trying to figure that out too.
As I've said in the past, and I know the security industry, I think, is inhabited by a lot of people who are very skeptical naysayers about AI. And I understand why. But I think our ability to have that perception and stay in this industry is that's not a long-term strategy. I mean, yeah, there's always going to be companies who there's always going to be a need for horseshoes. let's look at it that way, right? Horseshoes will never fully go away, but there's a lot less horseshoes being consumed now than there were, 150 years ago. So,
right. Therefore, far fewer horseshoe makers.
Correct. So, what I'm saying is, I think the future of this industry, however big it is, I don't know how big it is going to be in the future. However big it is, the future is going to be increasingly populated and led by people who are on the AI bus and figuring out how to help their organizations through the forest in it. So
yeah,
there you go.
So then the question becomes, how do you do that? What skill sets do you need? What knowledge do you need? How do I go build that skill set?
Yeah,
that's maybe outside the scope of this particular podcast, but there's probably about a bazillion out there around this. But I think you're right.
There's definitely a lot out there. I think it starts with becoming familiar with the technology, but even that's really tough because I truly believe that a lot of people who are naysayers about AI have in the back of their mind that AI is generating people with 3 arms and 6 fingers, and
it's changed. Yeah.
Not that anymore.
No,
I mean,
and it's
it
evolving
has
so
problems.
fast.
It's got lots of problems, and I'm not downplaying that at all. But like, it's here. Like, we have to reckon with what's in front of our face. Anyway,
You're not wrong.
so
I agree.
moving on, another AI story, because one isn't enough. That this is from the Register, and the title here is AI agent spills secrets just by previewing malicious links. So, the
By the way, for those who don't know, Jerry used to have a handle on the artist formerly known as Twitter at malicious link. So it's kind of Jerry's fault. Just previewing Jerry.
I still do own maliciouslink.com. I got to figure out what to do with it.
That's
though.
true. I would say host some malicious links. It's like an iCar test file for tooling.
I saw recently there was somebody, I don't know if you remember, there was a company that created, or I don't know if it was a company or not, but they created a shady URL. It was like the opposite of a link shortener. It was basically would turn a regular link into something that looks super suspect. Well, that one went away like a decade ago, but there's a new one now that is kind of the same thing. So it's anyhow. So the problems of previews aren't new. Like, I would say probably once a year it feels like there's some new problem with Outlook or iMessage, or some tool where previews are found to be a vector for exploit. There's a vulnerability in there. And what this is talking about is when you have an AI agent who I'm anthropomorphizing, so that has access to applications like Outlook or Teams or Slack or whatever, and a preview pops up, and your AI agent is interpreting what is coming up. It's not hard to think that somebody who has malicious intent and the ability to post something that gets previewed in your application has the potential to induce your AI agent to do something that you're not intending for it to do.
Indeed.
And that's kind of the long and the short of it. Like that, there's entire new classes of concern around AI that are almost identical to stuff that we've been dealing with for years. And so what is old is new again, over and over and over again.
Well, I don't mean this as cynically as it sounds, because we were just talking about being cynical, but typically what happens is new technologies and new things get built, and security is a follow-on. And
yes.
So we could have all the lessons of the world out there, but the folks who are innovating this sort of technology aren't the ones who care that much about that. And maybe that's how it should be. Maybe they can't care too much and still be able to innovate. So they innovate, they see and maybe there's an aspect of, hey, maybe we don't care a ton about security until we see what's successful, what sticks, right? We throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and see what sticks, and then we secure it. But in this middle ground where security is well behind the innovators, it's a dangerous time.
Yeah.
And it's a greenfield opportunity for the bad guys. Sorry, go ahead.
I also don't love that there's a company quoted whose name is Prompt Armor. Like, that one hurts my head. Anyway,
are you just mad because you didn't think of it first? Is that?
I think that's actually it. Yes.
I'm sure there's plenty of iterations of it, like Prompt Defender, Prompt Protection, Prompt. I don't know.
Prompt Protection.
I'm sure.
Prophylactics. Yep.
Right.
Oh god.
I'm gonna be quiet before I get us demonetized.
So, anyway, that's kind of the long and the short of it. There's been some analysis done, and they're finding out that certain combinations of AI agents in applications, particularly Teams and Copilot and OpenClaw and Discord, Slack, Cursor, like those are problematic. But then there's other ones that aren't, like Claude with Slack and OpenClaw with WhatsApp apparently aren't a problem. Now I'm guessing the reason they're not a problem is that there's some kind of incompatibility that's preventing the AI agent from actually seeing. Like I have to
As
believe
opposed
that, like
to
it's
intentional
not some
security.
right. It's not some like good design principle. I'm gonna guess that there's some kind of bug that's not not allowing it to funnel correctly.
Welcome to the Jerry and Andy Cynical Hour.
We've fixed the problem, but you're
We're
now
just going to
vulnerable.
rename the show to Two Old Men Yell at AI.
We'll have to. We're quickly becoming the Statler and Waldorf of AI, I guess.
Becoming? I think we have been for a long time, but yes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, it's a new concern. I think. I don't know how. I don't have a great sense of how, notwithstanding what we just talked about with OpenClaw and its pervasive deployment, I don't have a great sense yet of how common it is in corporate America to be running an agentic AI like on your actual work desktop. I think is coming. I think I know it's out there, but I'm sure it's still early adopters. Now, by the time people listen to this, in 3 weeks, maybe it's entirely changed. But I suspect that the problem space for this is still a little narrow. But it does kind of point out that, well, where else does this become a problem? Like, okay, well, somebody can insert it into the metadata of a PDF, or like there you can start the imagination can start to run wild. And I think we're going to be playing whack-a-mole for a long time, unless like this prompt armor thing. I don't know what the heck they do can somehow save
they
your
armor
bacon.
your prompt. Duh.
Well, that makes sense. I should have known that. Yeah. Anyway, so
by the way,
yeah.
we're not disparaging them. We don't know anything about them.
I don't know anything about them. I just the name is the name is triggering to me.
They could be the savior of all prompt pain. We don't know. I'm sure that's what their marketing says.
I suspect. Now, I think if you're working in prompt armor or the prompt armor CEO, you're probably thinking, oh, like we're going to be taking over. We're going to be buying CrowdStrike soon. But I'm going to bet that A, there's going to be a bunch of companies like that, and B, I will bet that those companies get folded into traditional. I don't want to call it traditional, but mainline endpoint protection like CrowdStrike and SentinelOne and whatnot. So I'm gonna bet that this is going to become a feature of normal security tooling soon.
Well, that's how it typically goes, right? We see that all the time. We see a new area that the traditional security vendors either have to build or buy into, and there's usually a bunch of startups. And sometimes that startup's intention is to get bought by those bigger players to be a feature set in a larger platform. So that's a very reasonable exit for a lot of these guys. And they just have to prove their value enough that it makes more sense for those big players to buy that small startup than it is for the big players to build their own solution to that problem. And that's actually a good creative outlet and how we evolve and how startups should exist. I'm not disparaging that model at all. It's just there's probably a bit of a gold rush right now with a whole lot of companies rushing into this area, and I don't know how good any of them are yet. And I think they might all have some very clever techniques, but it's such a fast evolving environment that it's going to be.
That's the challenge. It's so fast. It is like nobody was talking about OpenClaw or ClaudeBot or whatever in December, and we're here. We're here in February, and it has taken over the industry by storm. So, I think we're going to have challenges in keeping up with the risk here.
I think we already do. I think we're well behind the risk. I also have challenges keeping up with your mom, but I try.
I'm really glad you're back. There you go. All right. Our last story also comes from. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I get
Go ahead.
complaints. I get complaints if I don't work our your mom joke in.
Take your victory lap. Jeez.
I'm not even going to say it. Sorry. Please. Back to you on introducing our final story.
All right. This is from the Register, and the title here is Payroll Pirates Are Conning Help Desks to Steal Workers' Identities and Redirect Paychecks. This is not AI. It's not even an exploit, a technical exploit. It is something that I thought was worth raising because I can see this becoming a more common attack. And typically this is in the wheelhouse of security to deal with. So this story is about a particular situation that a company dealt with, and it was a medical practice where a doctor, somebody had broken into a shared mailbox. They don't know exactly how they got into the shared mailbox, and they selected a victim. And I infer from the context of the article that this particular victim was like out of the office or something, like not working at the time. And so they picked a doctor to spoof the identity of. And the attacker called the help desk of the employer of this doctor and claiming to be the doctor, saying, hey, my ID doesn't work. I need a password reset, and I need my MFA token reset as well, because I've got patients that are backed up that I can't help because I can't access my computer. And so apparently the help desk obliged, which, it's kind of hard in that context to be a help desk person saying, well, no, I'm not going to help you, and I'm just going to let those people suffer or die or whatever.
Yeah, no kidding. Talk about a manufactured sense of urgency.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of long and short of it. The help desk person gave the attacker enough information, with a password reset and the ability to log in with a multi-factor token, that this person, I guess, was able to log in, probably using SSO, to Workday, change the employees where their direct deposit went to. It doesn't say it, right? But I'm going to guess that person, the attacker, also went into that employee's mailbox, because I know that if it was Workday, you would get an email saying, like, your information has changed. I'm going to bet that happened, because the medical practice here says that the first time they realized anything went wrong was when the doctor contacted the HR department saying, where's my paycheck? They didn't know that something had happened. And so, right, like, they had no awareness. Now, in kind of tracking back,
you're saying typically an email goes out and the bad guy intercepted that email so that nobody could get the alert that changed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so, the doctor didn't realize that his direct deposit had changed. But it was also interesting because one thing that doesn't make sense to me, if it is true, as the story says, that the only time they became aware that this attack happened was when the doctor notified the HR department that he didn't get his check. That means the doctor was not inconvenienced in some way, I guess, by not being able to log in. Right. And which is why I think
because the assumption is that the login changed.
Right.
And so he wouldn't know it.
Right.
Unless there was some other. Yeah, that is interesting. Right. Yeah.
Which is why I think that this doctor may have been out of the office, like on vacation or something, and while he was on vacation, his direct deposit didn't hit, and so he called while he was on vacation. That's the only thing I can come up with. But if that's not the case, like if the doctor doesn't actually need the ID to do his or her job, then like that's something that the help desk should know, and that would presumably tamp down the urgency.
Yeah, I mean, this very much just comes back to a typical social engineering problem of, hey, help desk wants to help. And then once you give enough, they can get in and self-service a direct deposit change. And this is one of those where you've got to probably just add more friction to that process. Sorry, I know it's a pain in the ass, but we've had a lot of fraud around this. Kind of like with wire transfers, that they've added a bunch of extra checks around because so much fraud happens there. And maybe they've got to do some additional verification of some variety that is not easily disrupted by a social engineering attack, whether that be, I don't know, hey, what's the employee's personal contact information that we have on record or something.
Right. I think the story we talked about wasn't last week, was 2 weeks ago, which included a post by, I think it was Mandiant, on it was, it wasn't related to this. It was more related to like the Salesforce, breaches and mitigating the social engineering attacks on help desks, which those adversaries are using to get access into companies' Salesforce tenants. And so I suspect many of the same principles they outlined in there, which is like, you got to do it over a video call, and you have to like see and compare it to the person's photo, company photo. You have to hang up with them and call them back on the phone number that is registered in your help desk system, or you send it. Now, I don't know how in medical practices, like I don't know if doctors have managers or not. I'm assuming they do.
Right.
But like you reset the password and you give it to the person's manager, not to them, and you tell them like, you go call your manager, and your manager will have your password.
Which again is a pain in the ass for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Slows everything down, makes life difficult, takes time, takes energy, takes staff engagement, which is expensive. Right. None of which companies want to do.
Right. In the context of this, like potentially like people's lives are on the line, right? Like, or at least that's what's being, that's how it's,
or you have different levels of authorization required when different things are changed. Maybe you just trust them to change, in this case, to change the password, or you have something set up ahead of time or something. I don't know. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But to change direct deposit or anything dealing with finances or money, there's a new layer of friction and authentication and authorization that has to be invoked to combat this fraud. It's a criticality or sensitivity level increase, and therefore a higher level of authorization, which is certainly not something that any of us are foreign to. I just don't think we in security get this. Are we close enough to our payroll people, those applications, the help desk people, right, to try to intercept this? Because help desk, let's remember, is often measured on customer satisfaction and ticket closure rate and speed of resolution, not security. So they're incentivized to go fast. We're the ones have to slow them down. They're not going to do it by themselves.
True. I mean, in this particular instance, it would be solvable with a business process as simple as having somebody from HR or payroll call the person and confirm. Because I'm going to guess even in a large company, that direct deposits don't change frequently enough to create like an undue burden on a payroll person.
Given the consequences of getting this wrong, I think they should. And not just call them, but also have some sort of verification technique. Like, have you seen the ones where it's like, hey, you have a mortgage. Which one of these 4 companies is your mortgage holder?
The knowledge-based authentication.
Yeah. Right. Or you have, which of these 4 streets have you lived on in the past 20 years? And yeah, these are things.
something very inappropriate to me at the coffee bar last week. What was it?
Your mom has a birthmark on her left butt cheek. Can you describe it? No. But I mean, in all honesty, like something that makes it harder because you can spoof phone numbers, you can do eSIM attacks, you can route phone numbers to attackers. Like there are ways. Just calling them to say, "Did you authorize this?" might not be sufficient, right? Some sort of positive identification that this is who they say they are.
Right. Yeah, and it's becoming even more difficult with even the video conferencing bit. There's a friend of mine has been doing this kind of video series on YouTube and on TikTok about deep fakes, like and how effective they are, like in real time. Like they can adopt both the appearance and voice
Are you
of
sure?
somebody else.
Are you sure it's your friend actually doing it?
No, I'm not actually.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I'm not sure at all.
Yeah, they're getting super powerful. And as I was thinking about this, I was just thinking about the flips of this conversation. We teach people not to trust people who call them on the phone and give them information. So now we're saying, hey, HR is going to call you and ask you a bunch of questions, and we've taught people don't trust that, don't give them information. So we've
created
a trap,
we've created a tangled knot.
I mean, maybe you just do something as like giving everybody Google Authenticator when they join the company.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I think where this is all leading is, and because look, this is a business problem, but it's also becoming like a problem in your personal life too. Like, you know, the number of people who are falling victim to like the grandkid scam or, you know, something like that is becoming very, very common. And so maybe that is where we're headed, where like you have to have some kind of an authenticator. I don't know what that looks like, but something that authenticates that you are you and doesn't rely on your voice or your appearance.
You know what to fix all this? Everybody just goes back to an office.
You know what would also fix it is if we all used AI. Like, let me take that back. If we were all replaced by AI, that's what would fix it. If there were no more people, then we would not have this problem.
And that is exactly how AI looks at it.
Right. Yep. I have
this show.
I've long said, you know, that people, you know, the question of kids is always like, what's the meaning of life? Well, you know, the meaning of life is for us to give rise to the robots and for them to look at us as their long gone gods.
I think we got the first part right. I think the second part's going to be a challenge.
Well, I mean, we were the creator,
and
that they then sacrificed.
Oh, I see.
See,
this is the feel good show of people's podcast listening. This is where they come to feel good about things, Jerry.
It's just where my that's why I take pictures of roses. It's like very gets my head out of that dark place.
Because they die quickly.
Yes.
And you appreciate the time you have more as you watch this thing die, that is sacrificing itself for your need for the beauty of its death.
Just like the robots.
It's a good thing you don't live near a volcano. You'd be just chucking virgins in left and right.
Could be. Anyway.
Yeah. I think we should just
it's a bold future ahead of us. I still am a very Star Trek minded person, not Star Wars dystopia. I'm Star Trek utopia. So
we're not even talking about Battlestar Galactica, which is much more appropriate.
Oh, I loved that show. They did it so dirty though towards the end.
You know, I don't hate the ending.
I feel like they rushed it, and it could have been so much more.
I suppose, but
it wasn't. No, it was. You're right. It wasn't the worst ending ever, but it was. It didn't hold a candle to the storytelling and the level of depth that the earlier seasons had. That's
fair.
my view.
It's tough, man. I'll defend it because I think it's tough to write a great show all the way to the end and stick the landing is really hard, especially a show that was that influential and amazing, and the expectations were so high.
Fair.
And if I'm bragging for a moment, for those on video, down here on this shelf, which is hidden, I actually have a screen used prop from BSG that I'll have to show one day.
That is very cool. I love, by the way, that was a fantastic show, and probably will end up being the fate of humanity if we're not careful. But again, I'm still on the Star Trek bus. So there you go.
But Star Trek had to go through World War III and the majority destruction of Earth before
they
became
and by the way, what was the name of the riot that set it all off?
The Bell Riots.
That's right. I gotta get on it.
Who oddly, apparently in the historical record, looks like Avery Brooks. That's a deep cut for those who know their DS9 history.
Yes. Yeah, we have strayed so far from the
nobody's listening anyway.
Reservation.
It's okay.
That's true. Anyhow, I certainly appreciate everybody, and definitely thank you again to our Patreon sponsors. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
You can find links to the stories we talked about on our website. It's defensivesecurity.org. Just look for episode 340. You can find both Andy and I on infosec.exchange, and you hang out on X more than.
Yeah, I know.
I occasionally go there.
Some people think I'm a Nazi for it. Look, there's a lot of things I have interest in, but the people are in X, like aviation and military stuff. That I go where my interests lead. Stop calling me names.
Kids. And so we have family group chats. My family group chats are a nonstop feed of X links to, like, economic news or current affairs news or sports news or whatever. So it is where news happens, like whether we like it or not.
The network effect is real, man. And I understand the politics of it. I'm not endorsing anybody. It's people think there's some sort of like tacit endorsement by using, and people feel strongly, and I get it. You're allowed to feel that way. I have a different opinion on. It works for me. You can take it or leave it. You can judge me as you feel fit.
Fair enough. Have a lovely week. Hope you enjoyed our discussions about Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, and Star Wars. So take care. Maybe that's what this show is going to morph into. I don't know. Get more listeners that way.
Probably. I can nerd out pretty hard on that stuff. There's some Star Trek ships up here. There's BSG ships up there. Look, man, I'm prepared. I got props.
I got Legos. I got Lego flowers. Whatever. Anyway, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
I'm stunned beyond the ability to speak. Have a great week. Bye-bye.